I believe in storytelling. I believe in the idea that we can go and fucking make films no matter what is happening in the world, no matter what seems impossible, that we can just go out there and tell a story and that story can actually connect with people. And then at that time, I was talking a lot on the phone with Z because she was sort of preparing to do season 2 of Euphoria, which is a pretty demanding emotionally. And so she was a little bit in that headspace. And we would just sit around and just, I think like everybody else, just like talking about life, existential fears, anxieties. And, once we got the call from HBO that they were going to postpone season 2 till at least September, she was like, I mean, could we just like fucking shoot a movie in my house? Like, is there a way to do it? And I, I love just kicking around ideas, even if it's, even if they never come to fruition. So I just started like throwing out just a million different ideas. We knew that it was essentially going to have to be one location because we can't have any location moves. And the idea of just two actors. And I thought, well, it'd be great to do a relationship piece, but just from a writing standpoint, you don't always want the characters to be talking about their relationship. Well, you did this to me, and back 3 weeks ago, that happened, and this happened, and there's not enough ways into it. So I thought, well, what if he's a filmmaker who forgot to thank her at the premiere of a movie, which I am guilty of having done once in my life. But I like the idea of a story that he's a filmmaker and that his film is in part about her. And he failed to not just cast her and not acknowledge the contribution of her, but he literally didn't even fucking say thank you. And I thought it could be an interesting window into this relationship because then they can talk about their relationship, but they can also talk about the movie as an interpretation of their relationship. And so fiction and reality get sort of merged. And so that was kind of the general idea. I pitched it to Z. She's like, I love this. Start writing. As soon as I got my pen to paper, I was like, fuck, the only person I hear in this is John David Washington. I loved his work in Black Klansman. I loved his work in Monsters and Men, particularly that dinner table scene in Monsters and Men where he goes off. Cold called him and, read him like the first like 6-7 pages of it. And he was like, yeah, sure. I mean, it sounds great, but what happens? And I was like, I have no idea. This is my first day kind of writing it. Would you be interested in doing it? And, I know you're coming from like the biggest movie of the year, but this might be the smallest movie of the year, but like, you also maybe want to put some money into it and like help us pay for some lights and shit. And,
that's a hard ask.
No, it wasn't comfortable. But he's so sweet. And I also knew I needed two actors who would kind of up each other's game, but also root for one another. Because I think it's really important, especially given the circumstances of the world and how we were going to do this, that that we needed a kind of a familial sort of environment and people that really were sort of rooting for one another. So I called Z back and I just kept writing, and I didn't know really where the fuck I was going. I didn't think about act structure. I didn't think about where it goes, what happens. I just started to kind of try to dig them into a hole every single day, an impossible situation where they'd say some shit or reveal some shit that you go, how the fuck can they come back from this? And then the next day when I'd wake up, I just try to write them out of the hole and dig the other character into a hole. I think it's Marie's story.
Really?
100%. I mean, it's been interesting to see because there's been it's inspired a lot of very passionate reactions, which I figured it might. But I think the central difference between the two reactions is whether you view the movie as a defense of the artistic ego or an evisceration of it. And I think it's evident in the fact that by the end of the movie, that by the end of the movie, Marie kind of delivers about a 20-minute dissertation on his failures as a filmmaker and a human being, that it's quite clear sort of who the emotional gravitational pull of the film is, and who holds, I think, the power in that relationship. She's not the muse. She may have inspired certain things. She may have felt exploited. She may have felt like she wasn't given credit, but she's ultimately what holds his world together. It's very likely that he's not capable of being an artist at all without her, right, in that regard. And so I think the arc in some ways is her revealing who she is, like the relationship revealing itself in that regard. If I could have told my 11-year-old self that at some point I would be on a set taking all of the pain and the trauma and putting it into a character and turning it into something good that maybe you could see yourself in someday, I never would have believed it. But that's what makes filmmaking beautiful. It's what makes expression beautiful. And I say this to our actors a lot. The trauma and the pain that you've gone through in your life, wield it as a motherfucking weapon, because that's what it is. Use it as a weapon to cut through things, to get to the heart of what feels true. I think part of what we have in terms of culture is people don't see themselves reflected in media. And so what happens is a lot of the time they go, they'll go on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever, and they get pissed off. Why don't I see myself in this character? Why don't I do this? I didn't see myself in a lot of characters when I was growing up. And, and part of what excites me about film is I thought, well, then that means there's an opening. That means there's an opening to tell a story about a queer kid who's an addict, a trans girl, who's trying to kind of understand her relationship to men, what it means to find connection. And you just do it. You go, I've never seen that. I've never seen it. That means there's an opening to tell that story. It's an opportunity to walk in and say, this is what it is. And the reality is, I've found that the more radical you are in what you're writing, the more honest it is, the more of an opportunity, the more people go, oh, fuck, I've never read anything like this before. I've never seen anything like this before. And just that thought alone, whether they get it or not, there's a lot of people who are very stiff, never understand it. You'll get turned down left and right. I'm telling you. But if people go, I've never fucking seen this before, then someone is going to make it. I guarantee you. Just be unafraid.